I'm Gothlett, and welcome to this week's podcast. Every week we will try to do a podcast relating to something mysterious, murder, true crime, history, or basically just interesting. It would really help us if you are able to share, like and subscribe. If you don't like something, drop us a message. You know, we're all up for trying to make the best content we can. This week, I have decided to talk about Mother Shipton. The information I'm using for this has been pulled from various sources, from online, books, asking people, you know, what they've heard from various places as well. So, let's get into it. Here's the story of Ursula Sunthil, also known as Mother Shipton. So if you're from Yorkshire in England, you will possibly have heard of Mother Shipton's cave and may have even visited the location. It's got the petrifying well. They normally have teddies or dolls and dolls' clothing hanging. It's quite a popular one for school children in the area to visit, not only for folklore but also the scientific nature of the petrifying well. There's some folklore and speculation surrounding Ursula, aka Mother Shipton, but one thing is true. There was an actual woman in the late 1400s, and this is part of her story. Most of what we know about Ursula is from accounts written almost 200 years after her birth. And since she just became popular then. Ursula was born in 1488 to 15-year-old Agatha Soothtail in a cave just outside Knaresborough, which is a small town in North Yorkshire. 15 years old wasn't such a young age at the time to have children in the 1400s. Although Ursula's father is unknown and Agatha refused to reveal who he was. Agatha was even dragged before magistrates and still refused to identify him. Given the time period, this meant that Agatha and Ursula was ostracised from society. And this is how they ended up living alone in the cave that Ursula was born in. Rumours began circulating, as they do, because, you know, it's 1400s, nothing else to really talk about. There's no TV, no phones. You can just talk about what is happening in the village. It was said that Ursula was born during a violent thunderstorm. She didn't cry like a newborn, but instead cackled, and the violent storm ceased as she did this. Ursula, in many accounts that I have found, has been described as ugly and deformed, being born with bulging eyes and a hunched back. Given Ursula's appearance and Agatha's refusal to identify Ursula's father, it's speculated that Agatha had fallen under the influence of the devil and engaged in an affair. Another speculation was that Agatha was a witch and summoned the devil to conceive a child, resulting in Ursula's birth. Logic dictates that it was possibly somebody with high status, who she may have had an affair with. It could even have been a result of rape. We just don't know. Because Agatha kept tight-lipped and no one found out. So a little bit more about this cave. But I did mention there's the petrifying well. That's not exactly what happens. Now, there is a pool, what the water flows into, and it is skull-shaped. And you've got to see it to believe it. You can't make this up. It's a proper folklore story. What isn't really folklore? There is truth deeply rooted in all of this. I mean, I've been several times as a child and I've seen it, and I actually find it quite a tranquil place, listening to the water run, the dark cave, the drops. It's something different. So what happens is stalactites are formed. They coat the objects that are left in the cave. They're normally hung up under the water dripping down. And when I last went, you could leave teddies and all sorts of soft and squishy things. The stalactites in the water hurt the items that are left with layers of minerals, and these eventually, and it doesn't take too long, they happen the porous objects, and that's how they become like stone. I'm not sure if much was known about the process back then, but I imagine it may have been considered magic to have something malleable and easily moved and porous to suddenly become hard as rock. It's kind of like alchemy in a sense, from one state of being to another. I can imagine it may have been considered magic. 2 years, Agatha and Ursula lived in the cave, foraging from the land. Then the kind Abbot of Beverley dropped by, and I don't know whether he was doing this to be harsh or whether it was literally kindness. But the abbot separated Agatha and Ursula, securing a place in a convent in Nottinghamshire for Agatha and a foster family in Knaresborough for Ursula. Sources do say in books and online that the two never saw each other again. And that must have been heartbreaking for both Ursula and Agatha. As a mother, I can see Agatha wanting the best for her daughter and the security that the foster family would provide and bring, but to never see your daughter again, it's just hard. It really must have been heartbreaking. I did find a story about Ursula, which happened not long after she was with her foster family, so she's around 2 years old, maybe 3 at this time. So Ursula's foster mother, now I will just be saying Ursula's mother now, because it gets a bit too much with all the mothers, went out to run errands and left her alone at home. I'm guessing people in the 1490s would do that, common thing to do. Way back when you hear people talk about leaving doors unlocked and no one would walk in. So Ursula's mother returned home and found the front door wide open. Instead of rushing straight in, her mother got neighbours for assistance, fearing what might have been inside the house. This to me just screams self-preservation first. Personally, I'd rush in and make sure my child was okay, but different mindset back then. They are then said to have heard a strange loud noise, like 1,000 cats in consort. They found Ursula's crib empty, guessing that was a massive "what on earth is going on here" kind of moment. They looked throughout the house and found Ursula naked and perched on the top of the iron bar where the pot hooks were fastened above the fireplace. Obviously this was used for when there was cooking, because there weren't ovens as we know them today. So due to Ursula's physical appearance and the stories surrounding her birth, she was never fully accepted into society. When we see that nowadays, we see people that aren't fully accepted because they're different. So although we've come a long way with acceptance, we've still got a ways to go. Ursula did, however, have the acceptance of her foster family and a few close friends, it has been said, which when I was reading that, doing my research, I was, quite happy to hear that she wasn't fully outcast. But due to this, and still being outcast and ostracized by society, Ursula found sanctuary and comfort in the woods where she was first raised by her biological mother. I think we all do have a tendency to go back to places where we feel safe and secure, and I'm guessing it was quiet for her as well. She didn't have prying eyes. She could just be in the wood. Ursula did put this time to good use when she went to seek sanctuary and spent her childhood learning about plants and herbs and their medicinal properties. There's many instances throughout Ursula's life which have been documented, which led to her being labelled as a witch. I mean, she probably might have got, given her appearance, surrounding her birth, she probably already had some form of label there anyway. So this is one instance that I found. There are numerous. And Ursula was running errands. During this, she went past the chief members of the parish who were having a meeting. The men, as it was typically done, stopped their meeting and called out "Hagface" and the devil's bastard. Because, they're nice men, these, aren't they? Ursula ignored this and carried on with her errands. Good on her. Best way to do, don't give them any attention. The principal yeoman went to sit back down, and the ruff around his neck turned into a toilet seat. Man next to him, like anyone would, began laughing. I can imagine, it was a sight to behold. The hat the laughing man was wearing turned into a chamber pot. Back in the 1400s, a lot of toilet humour, I'm guessing. So as you can imagine, everyone began laughing and causing a ruckus because, this was happening. There was so much of a ruckus that the master of the house came in to see what was happening, except he couldn't get in. A large set of horns had grown suddenly from his head, and these prevented him from entering the room. These occurrences, though, only lasted a short while before they was turned back to normal. Hence to say the townspeople from that moment forward knew not to publicly mock Ursula again. And even though they wouldn't publicly mock her again, I am guessing, speculating, whatever, they still did mock her in private. It was she was a person to be talked about because she was different. Ursula, with her knowledge of plants and herbs, soon became known as a herbalist to the townspeople, and she was an invaluable resource. During this time, Ursula met her future husband, Mother Shipton. So there was love there, you know. She did meet somebody. Ursula and Toby got married when Ursula was 24 years old. Townspeople weren't always kind and would often spread rumours that Toby only married Ursula because she bewitched him. You know, why can't these people just let her be happy? Ursula also adopted Toby's surname, and this is how Mother Shipton came about. Also, the prefix of mother, back then, you'd be given this if you was a person in the community that did have that caring side, that nurturing, helping others going on. 2 years into her marriage, Toby passed away. Unfortunately, the townspeople, being the cruel people they are, thought Mother Shipton had a hand in this, which doesn't surprise me really. But due to the rumours and in grief, Mother Shipton moved into the cave where she was born and spent the first few years of her life. Mother Shipton did turn her little cave into her own apothecary. This is how she earned a living to be able to live. And this is where she created her herbal remedies and potions. People would travel from afar to visit her for her potions and remedies. I mean, she must have been good if she's getting people coming and paying for this help. She's got to have had that knowledge, which to me just proves that she was quite a studious and intelligent woman to be able to do this. Shortly after Mother Shipton moved to the cave and was doing all these herbs and potions and remedies, she revealed she could see the future. And that's when she got another nickname per se, and she was named as the Yorkshire Prophetess. She's more well known for her prophecies than her herbal remedies and potions. Mother Shipton did small prophecies first, mainly just regarding the people of the town, and these would materialise and become true. And then Mother Shipton moved on to larger prophecies regarding the monarchy and future world events. These weren't just always small things, they were quite big things and quite far into the future. I do have a few examples here. So this one is: water shall come over Ouse Bridge, and a windmill shall be set upon a tower, and an elm tree shall lie at every man's door. So the Ouse Bridge goes over the Ouse, a river in Yorkshire. The prophecy came true when the people of York got piped water to their homes. The system that brought the water across the Ouse Bridge in pipes used the windmill to draw the water up to then pump it through. Guess what? The pipes were made out of elm. That's pretty spot on, if you dissect it and look at it. I do wonder why, though, whenever you read about anyone doing prophecies, they're always like in riddles, and I don't know if it's just storytelling from the future. No one comes directly out with what is said. Another one: before Ouse Bridge and Trinity Church meet, What is built in the day shall fall in the night, till the highest stone in the church be the lowest stone of the bridge. And it didn't take long after she prophesied this for this one to come true. A massive storm came, and during this storm, the steeple on top of Trinity Church fell, and some Thews Bridge was destroyed. I mean, that's got to have been one heck of a storm to topple a steeple off a church and destroy the bridge. So when there was repair in the bridge, a lot more eco-minded than we are nowadays, they used pieces that had once been the church steeple, and they used these as the new foundation blocks for the bridge. So that stern that was the highest it could be became the lowest stern. Also, the church and the bridge was built during the day, and the storm happened on a night. This next one's one of my favourite prophecies, and it's mainly because I'm a little bit of a Tudor geek. There may be some more podcasts coming relating to that. We shall see. Before I go into the prophecy, I will mention that Henry VIII did refer to Mother Shipton in letters as the Yorkshire Witch. So she was renowned for the monarchy. She was known as far south as London. I'm going to read the next prophecy out in full, and then I'll break it down into sections because it is rather long. When the cow doth ride the bull, then, priest, beware the skull. And when the lower shrubs do fall, great trees quickly follow shall. The mitred peacock's lofty cry shall to his master be a guide. And one great court to pass shall bring what was never done by any king. Poor shall grieve to see that day, and who did feast must fast and pray. Fates are decreed their overflow, riches brought pride, and pride brought woe. So breaking it down, when the cow doth ride the bull, then, priest, beware the skull. Mother Shipton's visions, they didn't always include people's faces and rarely included people's names, but she would see the heraldry of the family. So this is the coat of arms that every family has. I think mine has got some animals on it and some plants. So knowing this, the cow represents Henry VIII and the bull represents Anne Boleyn. Can anyone see where this is going if you know a little bit of history? So this is foretelling the marriage of King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. When this happens, the priests need to be where? Again, do we know why? I mean, I do. It has something to do with Catholic Church going bye-bye and the Church of England saying hello. So the next section. The mitred peacock's lofty cry shall to his master be a guide. This is referring to Thomas Wolsey as the mitred peacock. And he rose from the son of a butcher. He did have other jobs along the way, but he rose right up to Cardinal of the Catholic Church. And Thomas Wolsey was the man who controlled all policies and matter of state. He was often described and depicted as an alter rex, or other king, due to the power he wielded. And pretty much like now, the monarchy although it did have more power back then, is a figurehead of the state, and it's the state and the people that are elected that tend to run the country. The monarchy just signs off on it, and it was very much like it back then as well. Next section. And one great court to pass shall bring what was never done by any king. I mean, it's believed it refers to the dissolution of the monasteries, and when King Henry VIII broke away, as I said earlier, from the Catholic Church and created the Church of England, so that he was able to marry Anne Boleyn, because the Pope had said, no mate, sorry, you're not doing that. And he wanted to, and he felt that he should be able to. The poor shall grieve to see that day, and who did feast must fast and pray. Fate so decreed their overthrow, riches brought pride, and pride brought woe. So we've got the dissolution of the monasteries happening, and ultimately the poor suffered. As with everything, those in the lower echelons of society suffer the most. The monks were expelled, and Henry VIII seized control of buildings and property. The funds which the monasteries used for charity also went into the king's treasury and no longer helped the poor. There just wasn't the coffers there to help them. So the destitute became even more so. It's also known at this time that the church did become more powerful, they became more prideful, and Mother Shipton could be referencing this also. I mean, one of the excuses King Henry VIII gave for the dissolution of the monasteries was that, these priests were greedy, they was prideful, they was breaking their sins, and they had, all this money. They shouldn't have all that power. But I digress. It's not about that. Mother Shipton's prophecies were first published in 1641, so quite a few years after her birth and her death. The source says that Mother Shipton's prophecies were documented by Joanne Walker, who heard the stories and transcribed as Mother Shipton spoke about her life. Nothing was ever published though during Mother Shipton's lifetime, and this does seem a shame, but it also seems to happen a lot, especially with prophecies. They're not really published there and then. It is people have heard stories who have then decided to document the history, and like with everything, I'm guessing they got embellished along the way, and it said that some of the books that were wrote afterwards, they have been added to. It's not all 100% what Mother Shipton prophesied. A few last little bits I will mention that Mother Shipton prophesied or foretold was the invention of iron ships, the Great Fire of London in 1666, and the defeat of the Spanish Armada. I think it's up to you to decide, all of these prophecies. Was she really a witch? Was she just in tune with the world around her? Did these things really happen? The only certainty was there was a woman who was born called Ursula in the 1400s, and she did live in a cave in Knaresborough, or near Knaresborough. Thank you if you've made it this far for listening to me rant on about Mother Shipton. Again, I will ask if you've liked this, give a thumbs up, give a like, give a share, and we will have more to come.